The moment another major power steps directly into a conflict, the entire global balance can shift overnight. Imagine waking up to headlines saying Russia has moved closer to the battlefield, while American forces already operating nearby suddenly face a much more complicated and dangerous environment. That possibility alone has analysts, military planners, and political leaders asking the same question. How vulnerable could U.S. forces become if tensions between global powers continue to rise? Before we dive into this, let's make this conversation bigger than just one country. If you're watching from the United States or anywhere around the world, type the word "watching" in the comments so we can see how global this audience really is. It's amazing how people thousands of miles apart can follow the same story and learn from it together. Assalamu alaikum, and let's break down what's really happening and why experts are paying such close attention. To understand why talk about Russia entering a conflict makes headlines so quickly, you have to start with one simple fact about modern geopolitics. The United States and Russia still possess the two largest nuclear arsenals on the planet. That reality alone means every military move, every statement from political leaders, and every deployment of troops gets examined under a microscope by analysts around the world. The United States currently maintains military bases and operations across multiple regions, from Europe to the Middle East to parts of Asia. These deployments are not random. They are part of a broader network designed to protect allies, maintain international stability, and respond quickly to emerging threats. American troops are stationed in dozens of countries, sometimes as part of NATO missions, sometimes through bilateral agreements with host nations. Now picture what happens when another major military power begins increasing its involvement in a nearby conflict zone. Even if direct confrontation never occurs, the strategic environment becomes far more complex. Military planners suddenly have to account for advanced air defense systems, long-range missiles, cyber capabilities, and intelligence operations from another global power. Russia, for example, has invested heavily in modernizing several parts of its military over the past decade. The country has developed advanced missile systems, improved electronic warfare capabilities, and expanded its use of drones and precision-guided weapons. These tools allow Russian forces to influence battlefields even when operating from long distances. But before jumping to dramatic conclusions, it's important to understand something about how global military strategy works. When analysts say forces could become vulnerable, they usually mean that the number of factors commanders must consider increases dramatically. It's less about panic and more about complexity. Think about driving through a quiet neighborhood versus navigating a crowded city during rush hour. In both cases, you're still driving, but the number of moving pieces you must watch changes completely. Military operations work in a similar way. When more actors enter the environment, the margin for error becomes smaller. Let's step back for a moment and look at how the United States typically prepares for situations like this. American military doctrine often emphasizes deterrence. Deterrence simply means maintaining enough capability and readiness that potential adversaries decide it is not worth taking aggressive action. That approach explains why the United States maintains strong alliances across the world. NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, is one of the most prominent examples. Founded in 1949, NATO now includes more than 30 member countries committed to mutual defense. If one member is attacked, the alliance considers it an attack against all. Because of that structure, American forces frequently train and operate alongside allied militaries. Joint exercises simulate scenarios where multiple countries coordinate defense operations together. These exercises allow forces to practice communication, logistics, and strategy long before any real crisis appears. Now imagine a conflict environment where both NATO forces and Russian military assets operate nearby, even if they are not directly fighting each other. Suddenly, every radar signal, every aircraft movement, and every naval patrol becomes more sensitive. Communication channels must remain open to avoid misunderstandings. This is why diplomatic communication lines are so important between major powers. Even during the Cold War, the United States and the Soviet Union maintained systems designed to prevent accidental escalation. One famous example is the direct communication link often called the hotline, created after the Cuban Missile Crisis to allow leaders to speak quickly during emergencies. So when headlines suggest that Russia has stepped deeper into a conflict zone, military planners immediately begin examining the implications. Which assets are being deployed? Are they defensive or offensive? What signals are political leaders trying to send? These questions matter because military actions often carry political messages. Deploying a naval fleet, moving air defense systems, or conducting military exercises can signal strength, support for allies, or warnings to potential adversaries. Let's look at a real example that illustrates how these signals work. In recent years, Russia has conducted large-scale military exercises involving tens of thousands of troops, aircraft, and armored vehicles. These exercises demonstrate readiness, but also send a strategic message about capability. The United States conducts similar exercises with its allies. In Europe, NATO regularly organizes training events involving forces from multiple countries practicing coordinated defense strategies. These activities help maintain readiness while also reinforcing alliances. Now here's where the political dimension enters the conversation. When leaders make strong statements about conflicts or rival nations, those comments can influence how military actions are interpreted. Words and deployments together create signals that shape global perceptions. Donald Trump, during and after his presidency, often used blunt language when discussing international rivals and allies alike. Supporters argue that his approach aimed to project strength and unpredictability, while critics believe it sometimes complicated diplomatic relationships. Regardless of political perspective, statements from influential leaders tend to amplify headlines, especially when they involve major powers like Russia. But let's pause and ask a practical question. How vulnerable are U.S. forces actually? The United States still operates one of the most technologically advanced militaries in the world. Its defense budget exceeds $800 billion annually, funding advanced aircraft, naval fleets, cyber capabilities, missile defense systems, and intelligence networks. American forces also benefit from global logistics systems capable of moving equipment and personnel across continents. At the same time, modern warfare has evolved. Technology such as drones, precision missiles, cyber attacks, and electronic warfare means even powerful militaries must constantly adapt. Vulnerability today does not necessarily mean weakness. It often means the battlefield includes new domains that require new strategies. Take cyber warfare as an example. Military networks, communication systems, and infrastructure can become targets during conflicts. Protecting these systems has become just as important as traditional battlefield tactics. Electronic warfare is another growing factor. Advanced systems can disrupt radar signals, jam communications, or interfere with navigation systems used by aircraft and ships. When multiple major powers operate in the same region, electronic interference can become a serious challenge. Now imagine combining all these factors. You have troops on the ground, aircraft in the sky, naval forces at sea, satellites in orbit, and cyber networks operating behind the scenes. Each layer adds another dimension to modern military strategy. This is why defense planners often talk about multi-domain operations. The idea is that future conflicts could involve land, sea, air, space, and cyber environments simultaneously. Coordinating across all those domains requires constant preparation and cooperation between different branches of the military. Let's bring this discussion back to something relatable. Think about a professional sports team preparing for a championship game. The players are highly skilled, but the coaching staff still studies the opponent's strategy, adjusts tactics, and prepares backup plans. Preparation reduces surprises. Military planning works in a similar way. The presence of another powerful actor does not automatically mean defeat or panic. Instead, it triggers deeper analysis, new strategies, and adjustments designed to maintain balance. Another important piece of this puzzle is diplomacy. Even when tensions rise, countries often maintain diplomatic channels to prevent conflicts from spiraling out of control. Negotiations, international organizations, and back-channel communications can all play roles in stabilizing situations. History provides many examples where tense military standoffs eventually returned to diplomatic negotiations. During the Cold War, the United States and the Soviet Union competed across the globe, yet they still negotiated arms control agreements designed to reduce the risk of catastrophic conflict. These agreements limited certain types of weapons, established inspection procedures, and created frameworks for communication. While not perfect, they help reduce the likelihood of accidental escalation between nuclear powers. Today's global environment is different but still shaped by many of the same strategic realities. Major powers monitor each other closely, respond to shifts in military posture, and attempt to protect their interests without triggering direct confrontation. So when news reports suggest that Russia has moved closer to a conflict zone where American forces operate, analysts begin evaluating what the move signals. Is it a defensive posture supporting an ally? Is it a political message? Or is it simply part of broader strategic positioning? Each possibility carries different implications, which is why experts analyze satellite imagery, official statements, troop movements, and diplomatic communications. Now let's return to the larger question that opened this discussion. Could U.S. forces become vulnerable in such situations? The honest answer is that any military operating in a complex environment faces risks. But vulnerability does not automatically mean collapse or defeat. It means the strategic landscape requires careful management, strong alliances, and constant readiness. And that brings us to the most important takeaway. Global security is not shaped by a single headline or a single military move. It evolves through a combination of political decisions, diplomatic negotiations, military planning, and international cooperation. When you understand that bigger picture, dramatic headlines start to make more sense. They highlight moments of tension, but they rarely capture the full complexity of what is actually happening behind the scenes. So here's what you should remember from this story. First, the presence of multiple major powers in a conflict region increases strategic complexity, which is why analysts closely monitor every development. Second, the United States maintains extensive military capabilities and alliances designed to manage these situations and maintain deterrence. Third, diplomacy and communication remain essential tools for preventing misunderstandings between powerful nations. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure you like the video and subscribe so you don't miss future discussions explaining major global events in clear and simple terms. And now I'd like to hear your perspective. Do you think modern technology makes conflicts more dangerous, or do stronger communication systems actually help prevent escalation between major powers? Share your thoughts in the comments, because conversations like this help everyone understand the world a little better.